Good evening, sports fans. Alright guys, I'm not even going to attempt to be as charismatic and entertaining as my opponent for Week 8 of the National Pokeball League. The one, the only, the OG GOAT of the format, Crobat for the win, aka Danza. Very, very good friend of mine. I copied his intro there for a second because that's how he likes to start off his videos. Totally makes it like he's a sportscaster and announcing some type of sporting event, which is cool because that's kind of what the draft format was based on in the first place. And I love sports as well as Pokemon, so it's definitely cool to combine the two. And he makes like easily the most, or easily some of the most quality Pokemon content on YouTube that I've seen. You know, in my opinion, obviously those types of things can be subjective, but the amount of time and effort and with his editing ability and whatnot, he just really is fantastic at making videos. I think that's something that I could say objectively. And if you guys are not watching him or watching his content, he actually uploads on the Token Minorities channel, and I highly implore you to go check him out there because, like I said, some of the best Pokemon content on YouTube for sure, especially if you're into competitive draft league stuff. So yeah, I'm not going to attempt to be as charismatic and enjoyable as him to watch, but he is who we are playing for Week 8 of the National Pokeball League. And alright, so let me just fill you guys in on where I'm at right now going into this game. So previously last week, we went into the week 4 and 2, and you know, that was pretty solid because we had a game against Trev earlier in the season that I think we would have won without the hacks, but then we did get lucky against Greg. We still had a solid chance to win that game without the hacks, but nonetheless, the hacks sealed his fate, essentially. But whatever it was, we offered a bunch of restarts. Same thing when we faced Chris the next week, where we kept freezing his Zygarde with Ice Punch. I kept giving him restarts until we got it right. So I've really been trying to avoid hacks as much as possible this season. So it really would have been nice to be 5-1 going into this week, because then I'd be almost essentially clinched for playoffs. At the most, I need one more win to clinch, but there's a good chance even 5 wins would make it in. But unfortunately, that is not the case due to some unfortunate events, as we went into last week at 4-2, and I really just wanted to win that game, because had I won that game, I would have had those 5 wins and had an amazing shot at the playoffs, because 5 alone might make it, just straight up, and 6 will clinch. So that's why it would have been really nice to get that win over David, as we built a really solid team, and we played really, really well until the end. We might have made a little bit of a misplay, but at that point, so many things had gone wrong for us that if like one of those little things had gone right, we would have won, and if multiple of those things had gone right, we would have won with probably a pretty solid differential as well. So, really unfortunate game, and definitely that was the saltiest I've gotten in a while from a Pokemon game. I definitely didn't lash out or anything like that, which was good. I think I'm over that type of tantrum, but it was just really frustrating because, like I had mentioned last week, if you didn't see the video, I'm working full-time now. I commute 3 hours a day, and to try to keep up with fitness and getting the right amount of sleep and spending time with my dog and family and stuff like that, things that are all pretty important to me, while also trying to balance Pokemon at the same time. It really could be kind of difficult, especially when you're a little bit burnt out like I am of the NPL, and I keep saying this is my last season, which it is. So that is why this has been difficult, and I just wanted to get that win, know that I'm at least almost definitely going to make the playoffs, and go from there. But unfortunately, like I said, so many things went wrong, and we ended up losing in a really, really narrow 1-0 or 0-1 loss. So now we're going into this week at 4-3, and I played my game against David really late. I played it like the following Monday or Tuesday. I can't remember which day. I think it was, I can't remember if it was Monday or Tuesday, but I feel like it was Tuesday. I might be wrong about that, but regardless, I played him late in the week, and I had already been getting messages from Danza saying that he was all ready to play, and I hadn't even started prepping at that point because I was still trying to make sure I had an okay team for David, and that didn't go too well. But I was so tilted after what happened against David where I was like, you know what? Like, if that's how it's going to happen, I don't want to put that much effort into the coming weeks. Or, like, not that I want to put much effort, I just don't want to stress myself out because I did kind of stress myself out for my game against David where I really was paranoid about a lot of things and I tried to perfect my team, and I think that I did. And despite all that, I just lost to tons of BS RNG rolls, so that's why I was really frustrated saying, listen, I don't want to stress myself out. I have a decent amount on my plate, and Pokemon can take a back seat if it has to. So that was my mindset going into this. So the next day after I played David, I went to work, built the team on the way home, the commute home, and I was like, Dancy, if you want to play, we'll be ready to play. So I'm going to go over the teams really quick, and then I'll show you the team builder, and we will get into the battle. So here is my team, same thing as last week. I had made these transactions, and Mimikyu would have had a great week. Both Mimikyu and Keldeo would have gone nuts last week. Had Mimikyu not gotten burned, it would have gotten the last 3 kills and not gone down at all. And had Keldeo, or had I, weakened the Prima Arena a little more, which I should have at multiple points in the game, had he not lucked me, then the Keldeo could have cleaned up, and the Keldeo ended up getting 4 kills, so I think it would have gotten 5 kills had it been able to knock out the Prima Arena as well. So they both had pretty good debuts, considering as much. I mean, Mimikyu not as much, but still, they showed how they were big threats and how they could have put in a lot of work. So that's cool. Didn't get to bring Azelf last week, but moving on to Dan's team, I will show you guys really. Oh man, you can't see it. Let me just drag this over. Okay, so here's his team over here, and he's got the threats. He's got Sheer Force Landorus Incarnate, Z Tornadus Therian, Victini, Cobalion, Sylveon, Z Rotomo, Mamoswine, Mega Gyarados, Lantern, Dusknoir, Audino, and Gothorita. Now, he made some recent pickups. As you can see, he's got the Lantern, Audino, and Gothorita. They're in purple, which means he recently picked them up. And they are definitely some solid low-budget picks. Gothorita is something that's actually pretty threatening to my team. I'm thinking that there's a decent chance he might want to use to trap something like Celesteela, because defensive Celesteela is so good against his team because it checks both Landorus Eye and Tornadus T, which are 2 of his biggest threats. And with something like Gothorita being able to trick me a choice item or just something that could really hinder my Celesteela, I'm thinking there's a good chance he might want to bring it. Victini's a big threat to my team, having that base 100 speed tier. The Mamoswine is a major threat to my team. Landorus and Tornadus are obviously really big threats to my team, especially the fact that Tornadus has Z moves because it helps it get past the Celesteela with something like Z Heatwave. So he's got a lot of the threats, but I really don't mind my matchup as much this week because a lot of my offense is good against his team, and you guys know how much I like to bring offense. So I will get over to the team builder. Let me just drag this in the right spot. Cool. I think this should be just about good. Yeah, so here's the team builder for this week. First up, we have ZDH, the Mimikyu that just wants some love. And it is a Life Orb set, really standard. Like I said, I built this just kind of on the way home from work, and I didn't have a lot of time to consider EVs and make things more calculated. All I knew is that I wanted enough speed for... Oh, wow, I'm actually missing an EV on speed that I wanted for the Mega Gyarados. That was silly. Let's pretend that this was my spread, because I wanted to create max speed Mega Gyarados. And yeah, this Mimikyu just has its standard 3-stab attacks. Having that Shadow Sneak priority is actually really good against this team because his only Ghost Resist is Mega Gyarados, and which is hit by Play Rough, and then he's got Audino, which is also hit pretty hard by Play Rough if I'm at +2, and if he doesn't bring either both of them or one of the other, then Mimikyu could really put in a lot of work. His best check is probably Cobalion, because that just has really high physical defense and could outspeed me and hit me with super effective Iron Head and whatnot. So other than that, Mimikyu is fantastic against this team, and it was definitely the first Pokemon I wanted to build around. Next up, we have Xeno, the Draco Dropper, my Latios, as I actually have a really bulky calm mindset on this Latios, I also realized that he just tends to be weak to psychic types because his only psychic resist or psychic immunity is Mega Gyarados, and Mega Gyarados doesn't really have the best matchup against my team in my opinion. So if he doesn't bring Gyarados, then I can pretty reliably go for psychic attacks, which made me want to consider running Choice Specs Latios, but I looked at some of his team builders and whatnot, and I realized he just hardly brings Toxic on his Pokemon. Maybe that's just been something this season, but a lot of his teams, he's been recycling pretty similar sets, and I have not really seen a lot of Toxic Pokemon on his team, a lot more Will-O-Wisp and whatnot with Dusknoir and Rotom Cut. So I figured that this set can put in a lot of work. At +1, this thing walls defensive Sylveon. At +2, at +1, it can avoid a 2-hit KO from defensive Sylveon for the most part, but at +2, it pretty much walls Sylveon. And Sylveon, it's going to be hard for it to fit Toxic on its set because it kind of needs both Wish and Protect against my team, and also he loves to run Baton Pass. So if he runs Baton Pass, then which I definitely think he should, because I have things that could easily come in on Sylveon, like the Celesteela, even the Nidokings. So I'm thinking there's a good chance he will not have Toxic on Sylveon, meaning that this Latios could just easily 1v1 it, even if it is Calm Mind. If I get the first Calm Mind up first, Psyshock is just going to do a million because Sylveon just doesn't have really high physical defense. So this set could put in a lot of work. The dual stabs are decent against this team, and the speed could creep Cobalion because obviously I have Keldeo, so if he runs max speed, then I can outrun that. And this set also allows me to take a Adamant, Life Orb, Mamoswine, Ice Shard after Stealth Rocks or 2 Stealth Rocks. It's really a fairly bulky set. And yeah, it definitely seems like it could be another pretty solid win con against this team. So next up, we have this Keldeo. It is a dual stab, Toxic, Protect Keldeo, because he really doesn't have good switch-ins to it if it has Toxic. And this set can easily live something like, I shouldn't say easily, but it could live an Adamant +2 Mega Gyarados' Earthquake, which is cool. And Toxic Protect could help whittle some of his switch-ins, like Lantern, like Rotom Cut. So this thing can definitely be an annoyance for him to switch into, to say the least, as the speed helps me creep things like Victini and whatnot. Landorus Incarnate as well. And yeah, it's named Keldeo because Leo from a 6-foot hacks. He's from the Bullet Punch Club, and definitely I've been trying to name a lot of my Pokemon after people from the Bullet Punch Club. So you have ZDH, you have Keldeo, and then you have a Sleeper named after Azar. We have the Azelf, and I have a Modest Choice Scarf Azelf here because it can afford to run Modest as what's it called? It creeps the potential Scarf Victini, and it just has a lot of power against this team. Like I said, the Psychic, his Psychic resists are only Victini and Gothorita, and if he doesn't bring Gothorita, or even if Gothorita is an obvious switch-in, I could U-turn out and take advantage of it, and Victini will have to come in on things like Stealth Rocks potentially, so that makes Victini not really a great switch-in. And Shadow Ball has coverage for pretty much everything else. Energy Ball for the Mega Gyarados as well as the Lantern. And yeah, this Pokemon just is a good revenger against his team. Has that nice U-turn momentum if I need it. And all around is a pretty solid choice here, I think. And then next up we have a pretty standard Sash Nidoking. I have enough defense to live something like a Scarf Mamoswine's 3 of its Icicle Spears, if he does run something like a Scarf Mamoswine, and I can get up my Stealth Rocks, which could be nice. We have enough speed for the Mega Gyarados if it's max speed, and we just have general solid coverage against his team. Dual Stabs plus Ice Beam hits pretty much his entire team hard, and we can get up Stealth Rocks, making it really hard for him to defog on this Pokemon. If he wants to defog later, it's different, but my whole team kind of puts a lot of pressure on him to defog, so that is nice. And finally, we have the one Pokemon that really isn't too offensive on this team, but is pretty necessary nonetheless, because like I said, Celesteela really checks some of his biggest threats in Landorus and Tornadus, as well as just a lot of his team. Sylveon, Cobalion. We have a fairly defensive Mamoswine as well, which otherwise kind of ravages through our team. We have Celesteela with the Heavy Slam. We have Energy Ball, which is the one thing I was kind of not sure if I wanted, but I just wanted it because I'm a little bit weak to Mega Gyarados, and I didn't want to leave my Celesteela too wide open to it because he could potentially sub up on my Celi and take hits from me and set up, which can be a major threat to my team. So that is why I'm going with this set. It is a mixed defenses, Heavy Slam, Energy Ball, Leech Seed, and Protect set, as this annoys his team quite a bit. So overall, I am pretty happy with this team that I built. I built it, like I said, quickly. So I think that when you do that, you just leave yourself open to a lot more things because you're not considering it as much, which is definitely something you should not do. Also, I'm someone who likes to do mock battles. Mock battles I don't think are necessarily the key to victory because every now and then they could screw you up where you begin expecting certain things a lot more than you should and ends up biting you in the butt. But you know, I do like to do mocks generally just to make sure that I'm comfortable with the team, just to see potential sets that I'm like, wow, I didn't consider this. This could be a big threat, so I want to make sure I have something for it. So overall, I do like this team, but like I said, keep in mind it was built, it was rushed, so that is something that I recommend you guys do not do in future games. So anyway, regardless, I am going to stop it here, and then I will move right into the battle. Alrighty then, we have made it all the way to the battle portion of this video. If you've stayed so far, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. Go buy a t-shirt, buy some Matty merch. You know what to do. We're making money out here. And no, seriously, guys, if you have made it this far, I definitely implore you to watch the full battle because just no words about this battle. Whether that's good or bad, you will soon see, but I definitely think that this is something that should be entertaining for the people watching. So we have Matty Brollic versus fellow TTM member Crobat for the win. We already had a match against a fellow TTM member this season in Abe, and we got a nice 6-0 victory. And now the only other TTM member in the NPL right now is Danza. So let's see if we are able to get the win over him as well. Now, looking at his team, he did not bring the Landorus Incarnate, which is pretty cool, but he did bring the Mamoswine, which is probably the biggest threat offensively. He brought the Tornadus, the Cobalion, and Victini, all really good brings on his part. And he brought the Gothorita, which I was hoping that he wouldn't, but I had a feeling that he might have even picked it up for my team. So, like I said, I was thinking that it would be brought to trap something like Celesteela, so that's what I have in mind. And then he also brought the Lantern, which I kind of wasn't expecting that much, but I do see how it could be viable against me for sure. And it definitely helps give him momentum and whatnot. So if you guys watch the team builder, I have a Sash Stealth Arc lead Nidoking, and that is what I'm going to lead with. His only potential hazard removal is the Tornadus, so hopefully he doesn't have Defog on that thing. But anyway, I'm going to go right for the Stealth Arc, since he actually goes right into Gothorita. As I go for Sludge Wave and realize that this thing is bulky as hell. And yeah, this isn't good. This isn't very good because I was, like I said, thinking that he would bring some type of choice set to trap something like Celesteela, which I could easily pressure because it just wouldn't have a Violite. It really wouldn't hit me that hard, and also wouldn't take hits very well. But for whatever reason, I totally blanked on how bulky a Violite Gothorita can be. And I shouldn't have blanked on it because I even did a calc with Celesteela, and I calced like, you know, a Scarf Gothorita to see how much Heavy Slam would do to it, and I was surprised, like, wow, this doesn't do that much. It does do like mid 60s to low 70s, but I was expecting it to just nearly OHKO it or just destroy it, but it actually had solid defenses for a middle stage evolution. So I was like, wow, that's kind of ridiculous. And it turns out that, you know, he realized that and slapped in a Violet on this thing and has a really bulky set. So right away I'm like, oh god, this could be kind of bad. So here, I'm thinking he might want to sack this and not let me go for a free Swords Dance, because something on his team could take a lot of damage. Like if he goes into something like Cobalion on my Swords Dance, if I have Drain Punch, I could do a ton of damage with Drain Punch. Even Play Rough. and really weaken that thing. But overall, his Cobalion can pretty much come in and handle this. So I think there's a good chance he's going to go into it. So even if whether he does or doesn't, I think it's my best play to just attack here. I could go for play rough, but I feel like I really don't want to risk a miss. If his Cobalion comes in and I have a chance to whittle it a little bit, then that gives my Mimikyu a better chance to sweep later, because the Cobalion is the main thing standing in my way, as far as I know. So I'm going to go right for the Shadow Claw, as he does go right into the Cobalion. And it does only 33%, but that actually tells me that he doesn't really have a ton of bulk on this Cobalion, as here I make a bit of a sort of a misplay. I go right into the Keldeo, because I know that I'm thinking that the Cobalion is going to either want to go for an Iron Head or to prevent me from setting up a Swords Dance, maybe, because he could stay in. And if I SD up, like for example, if I SD there and he Volt Switches out, then I'm still a healthy Mimikyu, and I essentially get a kill, because I could live a hit from Tornadus, I could live a hit from, if he's Scarfed Mamoswine, maybe he can knock me out with an Earthquake or something, but if he's not Scarfed, then he just, you know, sack something. So that's why I thought he would stay in and attack me, or go right for Stealth Rocks, knowing that I probably would switch out, or that even if I did go for Swords Dance, he could Volt Switch or Iron Head the next turn and probably handle me later on, because his entire team wouldn't be in range of Shadow Sneak yet. So I go into Keldeo as he goes back into his Gothorita. In hindsight, I probably should have gone hard into Azelf, but I just liked how he had no switch into this Keldeo, and I could easily take a hit from Cobalion. Like if I went into Azelf and he went right for an Iron Head, that would do a lot of damage to me. So, especially because I'm thinking that he's offensive, seeing the damage of my Mimikyu on him. So he brings in his Gothorita here, and now I'm pretty sure he's going to go for the rest. I know that Scald won't knock him out, so I go for Protect just to see if he, you know, goes for a Psychic here, so I can get a little bit of HP back. But he does reveal to be a rest set. So this is not good, because even if I crit him 3 times, there's still a chance that he could live all 3 Scalds and just rest again. So as you guys kind of know how this tends to work, Gothitelle traps Pokemon and just keeps resting up until it can eventually either Calm Mind up, or... But I'm figuring that he's not going to have Calm Mind, because if he's Calm Mind, Rest, Sleep Talk, then I don't know what his one move is going to be, because I brought Mega Tyranitar to every single game except for last week. So for him to not have a move to hit T-Tar would be kind of crazy. So here, I was like, if I get a crit here, that would be crazy. I do get a crit, but he was out of range anyway, so the crit didn't matter, thankfully, because I don't want to Hax him, but this really kind of sucks. I'm like, oh god, I could legit just get 6-0'd by this Gothorita, because I really don't have good ways to break it. I mentioned in my team builder that I noticed that he doesn't really bring Toxic on his Pokemon, and that's one of the reasons I brought the bulky Latios instead of a Breaker set, as a Breaker set would be really good here, because his he doesn't have a Shadow Ball switch in, and I could just spam Shadow Ball and just do tons of damage to his team, spam Psychic in certain situations. Heck, I could spam Draco Meteor or Dragon Coverage, because his Steel type is Cobalion. He didn't bring Sylveon, and Cobalion doesn't have high special defense, so... So right now a Breaker set on Latios would be so much better, and I'm really like, this Gothorita is just about to open me a new one and do its thing. So this is not looking very good, as I'm just going to keep scalding, as he's just going to keep whittling me down. As here, he rests again. So I predict him to switch out here and keep his Gothorita healthy, and it actually works out, as he does make the really aggressive play going hard into Lantern, as now I'm able to Secret Sword one more time and put this Lantern in range of Stealth Rocks, which is great. As here he goes right into his Torrentee, and I'm going to go right into Celesteela. So I go right for the Elite Sheet, as he actually goes right for the Defog. So now his Lantern is safe from coming in from Stealth Rocks. But here I go for another Leech Seed, just because I'm expecting him to either go for a Heat Wave or switch out. Either way, I'd be fine. As here he U-turns, and I expect this once again, as I still go for another Leech Seed. So this Celesteela can potentially wear down his team, but here he predicts me to go for Protect, which is a pretty good play on his part, not knowing that I even had Protect. As here I'm able to go for a Leech Seed, because I know I could take a Z Heat Wave if I'm healthy enough. So here I'm going to go for a Protect to make sure I'm out of range of a Z Heat Wave, as he brings in the Victini. So I'm going to go for another Protect to scout the Sex. I know that he's a Scarf Victini, as he goes right back into Tornadus, and he keeps coming in knowing that he could regenerate and switch out back and forth. So this is going to be an interesting set of turns. I'm really trying to keep Celesteela healthy and stay out of range of potential Z Heat Wave, as he's able to keep switching back and forth from Victini and Tornadus relatively safely. As here I go into my Latios to make the mid-ground play, knowing that he might go into Tornadus, and I go for a Calm Mind here, knowing that his Tornadus can't do that much to me. Even a Hurricane wouldn't do that much, as I go for a Dragon Pulse and knock him out. As here he goes into Mamoswine, and I go for another Dragon Pulse, as knowing I was able to live any Ice Shard from that range. Even if he was Choice Banded, I would be able to live it. But I kind of expected to go down to an Icicle Crash there. I don't know if he didn't have it, or if he just figured that I had a move to knock him out, or that I was strong enough to knock him out. But no, I'm actually a really bulky Latios, so that's why he went for the Ice Shard there, as thankfully he did, because otherwise I would have been in trouble. But he had no way of knowing how bulky I was at that point, because all he had seen me do was knock out his Lantern, and he didn't do any damage to me at any point. So going for Ice Shard there definitely wasn't a bad play on his part, because it would have put me in range of his faster threats like Tornadus or Victini. And had he gone for Icicle Crash and just got blown away by a Dragon Pulse, it would have been a bad play, and this thing could just potentially go in, because his Gothorita is still asleep, so I can 1v1 his Gothorita in the current state. So all of a sudden, it's looking like I'm kind of back in this game, as I am going to be able to switch out here. I really don't want my Latios to go down, as I know he's kind of forced to go for another Ice Shard here, as I could just fire off a Leech Seed right now. Even if he goes for something like a knockoff or an Icicle Crash, I know I could live it. And here I'm going to protect, as he goes back into Victini again. He's just doing this over and over again, and it's definitely frustrating, because now that my Latios is weakened, I can't really just switch into my Latios as and make that mid-ground type of play anymore, because of the fact that I'm so low, and I might lose my Latios, which is a little bit more important. So here I make the aggressive play to Leech Seed his Victini, as here he goes back into his Tornadus, as I protect once more. And here he goes for a Heat Wave, as I am going to Leech Seed this once again. And I believe I make another aggressive play to Leech Seed the Victini. I do. So I Leech Seed the Victini, which was definitely an aggressive play, because I was easily in range of a Z Heat Wave there. As here I go right for the Heavy Slam, knowing that he's going to go right back into Tornadus. And here is where he gets me. I really didn't have that much of a reason to not protect here, but I was finally gaining some momentum back, and he baited me for this long. He baited me doing this for like 15 turns, and finally unleashed the Z Heat Wave. So he really started to get me to believe that he might not have the Z Heat Wave. So excellent playing on Danza's part. Like, he really got me to believe that he didn't have the Z Heat Wave, when the whole time I was trying to make sure I was out of range of Z Heat Wave. So, really good job on his part. Especially because the fact that he switched out a little early, like a couple turns before, where I was only at like 49 or something like that. It really made me believe that he didn't have it, because even if I did protect, I still would have been in range of the Z Heat Wave. So, he just did such a good job at lulling me into a false sense of security there, that I started to get a little bit of momentum and started to get a little overzealous. And it caused me to make a big mistake. So now all of a sudden he's totally regained control of this match, and I'm realizing that I do have outside chances with things like Latios and Mimikyu, but it's not going to be easy. So here I send in my Azelf and this Tornadus, as I'm pretty confident that he's going to switch out here. But even if he doesn't, I can just still 2-hit KO this Tornadus with Shadow Ball from here. I'm a modest Choice Scarf Azelf, as he goes right into the Gothitelle, and that does 32. Like, that thing is so bulky. As here I go for another Shadow Ball, as he actually goes into Tornadus, interestingly enough. Wasn't really expecting that. As here he goes right for the Hurricane. He does hit, which puts us really low. As here he's going to go back into his Gothorita, realizing that his Tornadus is probably a little bit more important here, as we get a much higher roll in the second Shadow Ball, putting him in range of the third one finally. As here, we just barely miss out on the KO on his Tornadus, as he's able to knock us out with the U-turn. As here, he goes into his Cobalion. Now, I'm just going to go back for a second. I go for the Shadow Ball, as he just knocks me out, and he took a little while to pick what he wanted to go into. And I was really afraid of him going into Mamoswine, because if he went into Mamoswine, then what's it called? Mamoswine or or Victini, because both of those he can just... I'm kind of forced to either Swords Dance or attack. I mean, that's the only things I can do. But if I want Mimikyu to win, I'm going to need to go for a Swords Dance. So had he gone into something like Mamoswine or Victini and just clicked Ice Shard or U-turn, then he probably would have broken my disguise. I mean, had he gone into Mamoswine, I probably would have just gone for Shadow Sneak. But the point still stands that I wouldn't have been able to boost up, and he could bring in Cobalion next and easily take a hit from an unboosted Mimikyu and proceed to knock me out with Iron Head or something like that, as Latios isn't really a safe switch in. From there, I'd have to try to just win with Latios. But this is what his thought process was, and honestly, I think that it is a good one, because my Latios right now is out of range of any of his team's attacks. I could tank a Hurricane, actually anything but Mamoswine. So Mamoswine is what I was mostly afraid of him going into, and had he gone right into Mamoswine and I went into Mimikyu, he would be at a big risk, because if he lets me set up a Swords Dance as he switches out, Mimikyu probably wins. But if I attack him as he stays in, then my Latios can beat him, which actually is true, because I am a bulky Latios, and if I just roost up on one of his Pokemon and get a Calm Mind up, then Latios can sweep his team. As we already saw before, the Ice Shard from Mamoswine is doing less than 50%, and Victini's best move to hit me is U-turn. I don't even know if he is a physical Victini yet, because he hasn't even gone for another move other than U-turn. And Tornadus Hurricane, number one, it isn't accurate. Number two, it can't knock me out from like 56% or whatever I'd be at. So say I got one Calm Mind up against something like Cobalion, he doesn't know my other move. If my other move is something like Psychic, which it very well could be, then he will go down to a +1 Psychic because he's on offensive Cobalion. I'm actually Psy Shock, which means he could easily live that, but he doesn't know that. So it's in his best interest to go right into his Cobalion here, because if I do go into Latios, he can do his best to keep me low with max attack Iron Heads, and if I try to just set up on him and Calm Mind and roost up, then he can go for a Swords Dance and keep me low, keep me in range of something else, and then deal with Mimikyu with the rest of his Pokemon by just breaking the disguise and getting the chip damage that he needs. So he goes into Cobalion as I go into my Latios here. I just go for Psyshock, because I know that if I Psyshock, a +2 Mimikyu will be able to knock out this Cobalion almost 100% of the time with a +2 Shadow Sneak, if he's the set that I believe he is, because these Iron Heads are doing a lot. So I'm trying to win with Latios right now, because I'm realizing that I might be able to, but he does reveal the Iron Head. So now I'm like, you know what? I'm just going right for the attacks here, as I'm going to be able to knock this out and then force him into something else as he goes into Victini. So now it is all up to ZDH. It was up to ZDH last week. It's up to ZDH this week. He goes for the U-turn. I'm going for Swords Dance. No ifs, ands, or buts. That is my play. He goes into Mamoswine, and if this is not Choice Scarfed, we outspeed guaranteed with the Shadow Sneak, and we do. This is looking like we have a shot. So here, I just go right for the Shadow Claw, and I'll tell you why. Because I am 100% out of range of a Hurricane from Tornadus there. So I'm actually out of range of Hurricane and Life Orb from Tornadus. So if and he is in potentially range of Shadow Sneak. If I get a high roll on Shadow Sneak, he will go down. So what's it called? So it was in his best interest to switch out there, because if he for example, say my Shadow Sneak did get a high roll and knocked him out, then he goes down, and obviously Victini will go down to a +2 Life Orb Shadow Sneak, or he stays in and I go for the safe Shadow Claw. I live the Hurricane and the Life Orb, and then same thing, Victini comes in and I definitely knock him out. But now, the fact that he went into Victini means that the reason I didn't want to go for Shadow Sneak on the turn, by the way, is because had I gone for Shadow Sneak and it did not knock him out, then and say he went for Hurricane, then that means I'd have to attack 2 more times and I would not have enough HP left for 2 more Life Orb hits. So that's why I had to go for Shadow Claw there. So here, he's going to go out into his Tornadus. So you can't see the chat, but I posted in the chat the calc, and I said, okay, with my Mimikyu spread, I don't have much bulk at all, but with my Mimikyu spread, I'm at 70.6 right now, and max roll is 70.9. So there is, I believe, a 96 point something chance that I live that Hurricane. So it comes down to whether he could hit Hurricane and either confuse me or crit me, one or the other, or get an absolute max roll. So he has those ways to win. He can either crit, he can get a very, very max roll, absolute max, or confuse me and get the 33% chance to hit myself in confusion. But for me, I have a 96 point something chance that that I'm able to live. I have a 30% chance to dodge the confusion, and I have, say I do get confused, a 66 point something chance to break out of the confusion. So the numbers are in my favor here without a doubt. I just need to click Shadow Claw and hope that one of those bad things or multiple of those bad things do not happen here, because I will win this game. So it all comes down to this, ladies and gentlemen. If I win, it will be a 0-0 victory, almost guaranteed, unless he gets like... Actually, no, I think the min roll on Hurricane would still mean that it would still be a 0-0 victory for me. So ZDH, last week, when I needed you to pull through the most, after all that hacks, I just needed you to not get burned for one turn, you got burned. I know you want everyone to love you. Here is your chance to redeem yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, ZDH, take the stage. This is your chance to achieve. This is your chance to redeem yourself and show everybody what you're made of. Show everybody that you are worth loving. I'm being sarcastic, by the way. Everybody is worth loving. But ZDH, come on. I need you now more than ever. And please, 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 game, do not do it to me what you did last week. He goes for the Hurricane, gets almost max roll, and we get the attack off. We win 0-0 in an absolute nail-biter against Crobat for the win. Oh my god, that was a 6-star classic Pokemon battle, if I do say so myself. That was a major win for us. It obviously stinks that we don't get any differential points, because we're like 5-3 with, I don't know, we were 4-2 plus 2 last week. So now we're 5-3 plus 1. So that is kind of bad. But we still are 5-3 nonetheless, which gives us a fantastic shot at playoffs. I don't think it guarantees us playoffs, but it gives us a really good chance to make it even with just 5 wins. But if I do win one of my last 2 games, I am clinched. Definitely, I will make the playoffs. So this win was huge, because I really thought that I was in a ton of trouble when that Gothorita started going in on me, because I really under-prepped for that. Like I said, I do think I built a good team. I am just generally, like I said to Dan's after the match, I'm a good builder. At the end of the day, I am a good builder. I consider myself to be the best one. So whether I build a team in 5 minutes or build a team in 45 minutes, I think that I will come out with a good product. But usually just getting those test battles and considering more sets that could potentially win against me or do well against me helps me polish my teams up and make them a little more solid. And I definitely think that could have been the case here, because I don't think I would have been as weak to the Gothorita had I realized how much of a threat that it was. So I definitely under-prepped for that monster, and Danza made me pay for it. But thankfully, ZDH, the Mimikyu, was able to achieve its destiny and win this game in the most stylish fashion ever. Mimikyu is an awesome Pokemon. If David didn't hack me so damn much last week, then Mimikyu would have cleaned up that game and gotten 3 kills and not had gone down. So Mimikyu would have had 6 kills in 2 weeks, which would have been really, really cool. Because I just love the Pokemon in general, and I really wanted to use it, so that would just solidify the fact that it was a good decision for me to get it. But either way, it still was a good decision. It just happened to get unlucky. So, is what it is. But we were able to secure this win, which gives us a very good shot at playoffs. And these next 2 weeks, I have both Verd and Aster. And even though those are 2 guys I haven't played in the format and I've really wanted to play for a while, at least I could just kind of chill out in the sense where I don't have to stress myself out too much I can just try to have some fun. And if I, worst case scenario, I don't make playoffs, whatever. It's not the end of the world. But I do have a really good shot. So hopefully I could win at least one of those games and move on to the playoffs from there. One of the reasons I don't want to go too crazy, stressing myself out over those games, is because those guys are also... Aster is a lock for playoffs for sure. He's like 6-1 going into this week. So, yeah, shout outs to him. He's up there for the best record in the league with Gypsy. So he is definitely a lock for playoffs. And Verd is going into this week 4-3 like me as well. So he is not a lock yet, but he is looking pretty solid for playoffs. So there is a chance that I will be playing those guys in the playoffs, and I don't want to necessarily show all the tricks up my sleeve for those games. I would definitely like to build good teams so I could have good matches with them, because both of those guys I've been wanting to play in the format for a while. But if I do end up going against them in the playoffs, it would kind of stink if I gave them my absolute best team during the regular season, and then all of a sudden I just couldn't build a team that was good enough, and they were able to out-prep me and outplay me or whatever. So that is my mindset going forward. That's why that loss last week just sucked so much, because I'd be 6-2 right now, sitting pretty, not having to worry about a thing. I could even bring memes against Verd and Aster if I wanted to, and it would just be nice. But unfortunately, that's not the case. But either way, I wouldn't really want to bring memes, especially against Verd, because we've been talking about having a battle for a while. So I'm definitely going to try to give Verd a good game, and hopefully we have a good time. So this is why I'm Matty Omega, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys don't know what that name means, Kenny Omega is the name of a professional wrestler, one of my favorite professional wrestlers, and probably best professional wrestler in the world in terms of just pure skill. The guy is absolutely electric. He's so talented, whether it be his character work or his just athleticism in the ring. He could just tell a story in the ring like no one else, and just puts on some of the best wrestling matches in all of pro wrestling history. There's a rating scale by this one wrestling critic who's the most famous one, and everyone's trying to impress that guy and get him to give their matches a lot of stars. And the max star rating for his scale was always 5 stars, but this guy Kenny is so good that he broke that rating. He broke that scale 3 times, actually 4 times, I think. Getting 6 stars or above 3 times, and getting over 5 stars, I think like 5.25 once. So he's broken this scale rating more than anyone else has, and he's just always putting on these amazing matches. And I feel as though throughout my draft format career, I've had some of the best matches in the history of the format. It could just be my own bias, but I've just been told by so many of my friends that, and even the people that I've played, when they've been asked what their favorite match was, it's been the match against me. Or I've been told, oh, that was one of my favorite matches I've ever seen in the format, from some of my friends, and they've been regarding some of my matches with either Gypsy. My match against Zazo was crazy. My match against Jolt was awesome. My match against Danza just now, I think, was insane. A 0-0 finish. I've had a whole handful against Gypsy that have been amazing. I've definitely had some crazy matches that have been really, really exciting in the past. Always putting on a show, and that's been one of the reasons that I like to call myself Matty Omega, because if I'm not going to win, I'm going to put on a damn good show doing losing at least. So that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Really, really exciting game. Winner or loser, both Danza and I should be holding our heads high, at least I think, because I did like my matchup in this game, and he really pushed me to my limits. So it doesn't get any closer than that, being 0-0. So shout outs to him. Please go check out his channel. I said earlier that he makes objectively fantastic Pokemon content, because it's true. He really is so good and funny and everything. So I definitely suggest to go check him out. Check out the rest of the NPL coaches and channels and everything. And most of all, hope you guys have yourselves a fantastic day, as I will see you all in the next one later.